everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Always.
Today, we're going old school.
Oh.
Yeah, we're cracking open a public speaking manual from the early 1900s.
Wow. Going way back.
I know, right? But the chapter is called Fluency Through Preparation. And I thought it could offer some timeless wisdom.
For sure. The fundamentals of good communication.
Exactly. They haven't really changed that much, right?
Definitely not.
So we're going to see what gems we can unearth.
Love it.
And hopefully you'll walk away with some practical tips.
To boost your own communication skills.
Absolutely, whether you're on a stage or just chatting with a friend.
Makes sense. So where does this manual start?
Well, the first thing it tackles is the question, what is fluency, really?
Getting right to the heart of it.
Right. We kind of know what it means, but I'm curious to see.
How they defined it back then.
Yeah.
It probably goes deeper than just, being a fast talker.
Or using big words.
Right. It's about getting your message across.
Smoothly and confidently.
Exactly. And you know what they say is the foundation of fluency?
What's that?
Preparation.
Ooh, preparation. I gotta admit, that word,
Doesn't always excite everyone.
it can sound kind of,
Structured.
yeah, a bit like homework.
I hear ya. But think of it this way.
Okay.
You wouldn't expect to just sit down at a piano
And play a concerto flawlessly.
without any practice, right?
True. It takes hours of work.
Speaking is kind of like that, too.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
The manual actually uses this analogy.
Of the piano.
Well, they compare two famous figures.
Okay.
William Jennings Bryan, the political speaker,
Heard of him?
and John Burroughs, the naturalist.
Oh, interesting pairing.
So Bryan could probably talk about politics for hours,
Right, that was his thing.
but he likely couldn't talk about the birds of the Everglades.
And Burroughs, probably not so much on politics.
Exactly. Each one was an expert in their own field.
So the takeaway is,
Knowing your stuff is crucial.
like fluency fuel.
Yes. If you want to speak confidently and with authority, you got to know what you're talking about.
Inside and out.
But the chapter says there's more to it than just facts, right? Absolutely. Preparation is more than just memorization.
Right. Like what else?
Well, it involves organizing your thoughts, having a good vocabulary.
Makes sense if you don't have the words.
It's hard to express yourself.
Exactly. What else?
Mastering your delivery, like your tone and pacing.
Oh, yeah. How you say it is just as important as what you say.
Totally. And managing that self-consciousness we all feel sometimes.
Now, this is where I get really interested.
Oh, why is that?
Because it says these skills aren't just for big speeches.
They're for everyday conversations, too.
Imagine if we all put a bit more effort into preparing.
For our daily interactions.
Right. Think how much smoother our conversations could be.
It's true. We view preparation as this formal thing.
Yeah, like a big to-do.
But it can be as simple as taking a moment.
To gather your thoughts before a meeting.
Or jotting down a few talking points.
Before a tough conversation.
Exactly. Just a little bit of prep can make a huge difference.
Okay, so we've established preparation is key.
But how do we actually get KT better at fluency?
Right, that's the million-dollar question.
Well, the manual goes back to that piano analogy.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering about that.
They compare a pianist's fingers flowing over the keys.
To a speaker's words coming out smoothly.
Precisely. And it highlights the importance of practice.
So consistent effort is key.
Like with any skill you want to master.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about those of us who
get nervous speaking.
Yeah, like my first presentation in school.
Stage fright.
Oh, I was bright red, I swear.
Totally normal. The manual says that initial awkwardness,
It's part of the process.
no one is born a perfect speaker.
Thank goodness for that.
It's something we become through practice.
So we got to push through that discomfort.
Exactly. Don't let it discourage you.
Okay, so practice makes perfect, or at least less awkward.
Right. And the manual then gets into something a bit more complex.
Whoa. What's that?
The two sides of attention.
Conscious and subconscious.
You got it.
Oh, that sounds intriguing.
It's a bit philosophical.
I'm all ears.
The idea is that when you're speaking, your conscious attention
It should be fully on your message.
on what you're trying to convey.
But how do we stop thinking about...
How we sound, or if we look silly.
Exactly. Those thoughts always creep in.
That's where the subconscious mind comes in.
Okay, I'm following you.
Through practice, the technical aspects of speaking,
Like posture, tone, pacing.
they become ingrained habits.
So while our conscious mind focuses on the message...
Our subconscious handles the mechanics.
Wow, that's fascinating. It's like...
A tag team effort in our brain.
I love that. So fluency is kind of like turning good speaking habits.
In the second nature.
Exactly. Training our subconscious to support us.
So our conscious mind can really shine.
I like that. Speaking of shining, the chapter ends with a quote.
Ooh, a quote. I love a good quote.
It's from Henry Wadsworth Longfellow,
The poet.
the one and only. He says, "A single conversation across the table with a wise man is better than 10 years' study of books."
Now, as someone who loves books.
I know, right? A little defensive at first.
But I get his point.
It's about real-world interaction,
That active dialogue.
which is crucial for developing fluency.
Think about it. Conversations force us to articulate our thoughts.
To make our ideas clear through words.
It's like a mini practice session for any type of speaking.
I never thought of it that way. Conversations are suddenly way more valuable.
They're like hidden fluency gems in our everyday lives.
So it's not just about the big moments on stage.
It's about those small, everyday interactions.
That can make a huge difference in our communication skills.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of it.
Fluency is all around us, just waiting to be practiced.
And honed to perfection. Or at least...
to a point where we feel comfortable and confident expressing ourselves.
Exactly. And that's a journey worth taking.
I couldn't agree more. And you know what? I think that's a perfect place to pause for now. We'll delve deeper into this fascinating chapter in part 2 of this deep dive.
So we were talking about conversations being like these little hidden gems.
For practicing fluency, yeah.
It really changes how you view those everyday interactions, huh?
It does. It's like suddenly I'm paying more attention.
To how you're communicating, even in casual settings.
Exactly. Like before, it was just kind of automatic.
You just talked without thinking much about it.
Right. But now I'm more aware of
The words you're choosing,
the
though.
pauses, the tone.
It's like you're becoming more mindful.
Of the whole process of communication.
And that's a really powerful shift.
It is. So we've been talking about how important it is to,
Know your stuff.
right, that deep knowledge of your
That's
subject.
the fluency fuel.
Exactly. But the chapter also talks about having a rich vocabulary.
Ah, yes. The words themselves.
Makes sense. The more words we have in our arsenal.
The better we can express ourselves.
Right.
Having a wider range of colors to paint with.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
The manual actually encourages us to actively expand our vocabularies.
So how do they suggest we do that?
They have a few ideas,
I'm all ears.
like picking a word of the day
Ooh, I've heard of that.
and trying to use it in conversations.
That's a good one. Makes you really think about it.
It does. You could also try
Okay.
vocabulary apps or word games.
Scrabble. Anyone.
Exactly. There's so many fun ways to learn new words.
But it's not just about knowing fancy words, is it?
You're right. It's not about sounding impressive.
It's about choosing the right words at the right time.
To make an impact.
Yeah.
To convey the right nuance.
Exactly. So we've got the words, but what about delivery?
Ah, yes, the H-H-O-W of communication.
The chapter mentions mastering delivery techniques.
Because you can have the most amazing message.
But if you deliver it poorly...
It can fall flat.
Right. So what are these delivery techniques?
Things like tone of voice, pacing, pauses.
Within body language.
Well, all of that plays a role. Think of it this way.
Okay.
A well-delivered speech can captivate a room,
While a poorly delivered one can put people to sleep.
even if the content is brilliant.
So true. It's about engaging your audience.
Keeping them hooked on your every word.
Right. And then there's self-consciousness.
Ugh, the dreaded self-consciousness.
We've all been there.
That feeling of
Being hyper-aware of yourself when you're speaking.
worrying about what everyone's thinking.
It's the worst.
The manual says self-consciousness.
It's often the biggest obstacle to fluency.
Because when we're too focused on ourselves
We lose sight of the message.
and our connection with the audience.
Easier said than done, though, right?
Oh, for sure. It's a natural human instinct.
Like, how do you just forget about yourself when you're...
Standing in front of a crowd.
or even talking to a few people?
That's where practice comes in again.
Practice, practice, practice.
The more you practice speaking.
the less self-conscious you become,
Exactly. It's about building that muscle memory.
so to speak.
So the technical aspects become second nature.
And then you can focus on...
The message and connecting with your audience.
I really like that idea of muscle memory for speaking.
It makes it seem less daunting.
More like a skill you can develop.
And, as you get more comfortable with the mechanics,
Self-consciousness starts to fade.
and your natural charisma can shine through.
That's the goal. Okay, so we've covered a lot.
Yeah.
Preparation, knowledge, vocabulary.
Delivery, self-consciousness.
It seems like fluency is this combination
Of all these different elements.
working together in harmony.
It's not one magic trick.
It's a whole approach to communication.
And the amazing thing is...
They all interconnect and reinforce each other.
Exactly. Like the more you practice,
the more confident you become,
which reduces self-consciousness,
and allows you to focus on your message.
delivering it with greater impact.
It's like this positive feedback loop.
A virtuous cycle that leads to
More fluent and engaging communication.
the more you invest in these skills,
The greater the rewards.
both personally and professionally,
Absolutely. Okay, so we've established fluency is something we can develop.
through practice and preparation.
But what about those moments when,
When you're caught off guard,
yeah, like you have to speak impromptu?
think on your feet.
Exactly. Does the manual address that?
They do. And that's where that general preparation we talked about.
It really comes into play.
Remember, it's a lifetime of learning.
Experiences and relationships.
All those things contribute.
It's like we're constantly building
This vast mental library
that we can tap into.
at any moment.
So the more you expand your knowledge,
Engage in conversations,
pay attention to the world around you
the better equipped you'll be.
for those unexpected speaking situations.
Exactly. It's almost like the manual is saying,
Fluency isn't just about techniques.
it's about cultivating,
A curious and engaged mind.
always seeking to learn and grow.
I love that. So even if you don't have time to prep a speech,
You can still draw on your knowledge and experiences.
to speak with confidence and clarity,
Absolutely. And the more you do this,
the more natural it becomes.
you'll start seeing those impromptu moments,
Not as threats,
but as opportunities,
to showcase your unique perspective.
your wit and insights.
Okay, that's a much better way to look at it. But the chapter also mentions,
Specific preparation.
yeah, how does that fit in?
So specific preparation is when you have a chance
To plan and rehearse,
for a particular event.
like a presentation at work.
A wedding toast, a keynote address.
Right, so it's taking that general knowledge
He's shaping it.
for a specific audience and purpose,
Exactly. It involves research, crafting a clear message
and practicing your delivery.
until it feels natural.
So it's not just winging it
It's about putting in the effort
to make sure your message is well received.
and that you feel confident and ready.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes winging it,
It can work out,
sometimes
but other times,
it can be a disaster.
and specific preparation helps minimize that risk.
It's like building a roadmap for your speech.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
Making sure you stay on course and reach your destination.
And the more you practice specific preparation,
The better you get at it.
you develop your own system
For organizing your thoughts, refining your message.
and delivering it with impact.
So even those high-stakes speaking events,
They become less daunting.
because you have the tools and the confidence.
To deliver a compelling speech, even under pressure,
And that confidence,
it radiates outwards,
captivating your audience.
leaving a lasting impression.
You know, we touched on this earlier.
The two sides of attention.
Yes. The conscious and subconscious minds.
Right. The manual goes deeper into that concept.
Okay, I'm ready for round 2.
So remember, the idea is that
When you're speaking,
your conscious attention should be
solely focused on the message.
on what you're trying to convey,
Right. But how do we stop those thoughts about,
how we sound or look.
yeah, they can be so distracting.
That's where the subconscious comes in.
Our trusty sidekick.
Through practice, all those technical aspects,
Posture, tone, pacing.
they become ingrained habits.
So while our conscious mind is on the message,
Our subconscious handles the mechanics.
it's like a tag team effort in our brain.
Precisely. And that frees us up to be
More fluent and effortless.
in our delivery.
It's amazing how our brains can do that.
They're incredible machines.
They are. But the chapter says we shouldn't even be thinking about,
Whether we're being fluent or not,
while we're speaking, how is that even possible?
it's definitely a challenge.
Especially when you're new to public speaking
We tend to overthink and analyze our performance,
in real time.
which can really sabotage our fluency.
So how do we break free from that?
Practice and preparation are key.
There they are again.
The more you practice,
The less you have to consciously think about the mechanics
your subconscious kicks in.
and frees up your conscious mind to focus on the message.
It's like learning to ride a bike.
Oh, I love that analogy.
At first, you're wobbly, thinking about every movement.
But with practice,
It becomes second nature.
you just hop on and ride.
Enjoying the freedom and the scenery.
And that's what fluency feels like, right?
Exactly. Finding that flow state.
Where you're not overthinking things.
Just riding the wave of your own thoughts and ideas.
That's when the magic happens.
When we're fully present,
Connected to our message and our audience.
that's when our true voice can shine through.
I love that image. So how do we get to that point?
The manual gives some solid advice,
Now lead on me.
starting with the power of habit.
Habits.
Remember that analogy about the pianist's fingers?
effortlessly dancing across the keys.
The manual says fluency isn't about memorizing rules.
It's about developing good speaking habits.
That becomes second nature.
So training our mouths and minds to work together.
Seamlessly, automatically.
And like any habit.
It takes time, effort, repetition.
But our brains are adaptable.
That's the good news.
So we can rewire those neural pathways.
To make fluent speaking feel effortless.
It's not about being a natural.
It's about putting in the work to develop those skills.
I think this is a great place to pause for now and pick up on the rest of this chapter in part 3 of this deep dive. So you were talking about fluency as a habit.
Building those good speaking habits.
Right. But the manual says it's not enough to just practice in private.
We need to practice in real-life settings, too.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
You could practice serving a tennis ball against a wall all day long.
I've done that.
But would you ever really master that serve?
Unless you're playing against an opponent.
Exactly.
Because in a real match,
You have to adapt.
to the other player's moves.
Their speed, their spin.
And speaking is kind of like that too.
It's a two-way street.
We need that real-time interaction to truly get good.
Precisely. That's where the real growth happens.
When you have to think on your feet and respond in the moment.
You can't just rehearse everything beforehand.
Right. Life throws curveballs.
And you got to be ready to swing.
So the manual is basically saying every conversation.
Is a mini practice session for public speaking?
I never thought of it like that before.
It kind of changes how you view those everyday chats, huh?
It totally does. It's like
Suddenly, every interaction has this added layer of
importance.
potential for growth.
Exactly.
So embrace those opportunities to practice.
Even if it's just ordering a coffee.
You're still honing those communication skills.
Okay, that's reassuring. But what about those times when we,
Totally freeze up.
like the mind goes blank.
Happens to the best of us.
You're in the spotlight and suddenly
Poof. The words vanish.
it's the worst feeling. Does the manual offer any advice for that?
It does. And the first thing it says is,
Don't panic.
easier said than done, I know.
Right. Your heart starts racing.
But panicking just makes it worse.
True. So what should we do instead?
Take a deep breath.
Okay, deep breaths. Good.
Acknowledge the moment with a smile, maybe a little chuckle.
Don't take yourself too seriously.
Exactly. And then keep going.
So embrace those imperfections.
They're a part of the process.
And chances are the audience won't even notice.
They're more focused on your overall message.
That's good to remember. The manual also suggests having,
Some go-to phrases or stories ready.
like a backup plan for your brain.
Exactly. If you feel yourself getting flustered,
You can smoothly transition to a familiar anecdote.
or a thought-provoking question,
It gives you time to regroup.
and keep the conversation flowing,
It's like having a mental toolbox.
filled with trusty tools.
I like that. And the more you practice using those tools.
The more readily available they'll be when you need them.
So we've covered a lot today.
We have.
Preparation, practice, handling those brain freeze moments.
Building that mental library of go-to phrases,
It's all about creating a foundation for fluency.
and then building on it
Step by step, conversation by conversation.
until those skills become second nature.
And you know what I love about this whole approach?
What's that?
It emphasizes the importance of lifelong learning.
It's not just about mastering techniques.
It's about cultivating a curious and engaged mind.
Always seeking new knowledge, new experiences.
And that journey, that pursuit of lifelong learning.
That's what truly makes us better communicators.
I couldn't agree more. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought.
Okay, shoot.
Think back to a conversation you had recently that just felt really good.
Where the words flowed effortlessly.
You felt connected to the person you were talking to.
Those moments are like gold
They are, because they're showing you the path.
to becoming a more confident, expressive, and influential communicator.
So pay attention to those moments, embrace them.
And keep practicing, keep learning.
Because fluency is a journey, not a destination.
And the rewards are endless.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the art of fluency.
My pleasure.
Until next time, keep those conversations flowing.